Hi, this is Damian Howard and you're listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on Casey Radio 97.7 FM.
Once in a while, you might find it.
Very much.
No worries at all. You're comfortable and ready to go?
Yeah, I'm just in the city at the moment, so if you hear a tram go by, it's all part of it.
Give it a bit of ambience. That's good.
Yeah, good on you.
All right. Before we start talking about the latest record, I was just flipping through your Facebook page the other day, and I noticed something about how you discovered that you need to pay to promote your gigs on social media or something along those lines.
Yeah, look, one of the things that I think is a new phenomenon with all this social media is it's fantastic to be able to, advertise your gigs and promote your gigs, and that really helps as an independent artist. But the thing that really has struck me lately is that Facebook now pretty much you get so many points they distribute to so many people, and then they come back to you and say if you want it to be promoted anymore, you can pay. And unfortunately, it defeats the purpose of why I got into social media, is to help promote your music. So that's the disappointing part, I think.
Yeah, it's a shame. Have you found a way of working around it?
I think there's a few ways. If you mention anything about dates and times and particularly gigs, then you get caught out. So you can be quite creative in the ways that you can come up with letting people know without it seeming like an advertisement. And yeah. I suppose, look, I can understand from their perspective, it's a business, they're trying to make money, and we're trying to, as independent musicians, we're trying to get it for nothing. So I think there's a balance there. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this album, Once in a While. It's actually been out for quite a while. Have you been happy with the recognition and response to date?
Yeah, look, it's taken, once again, it's as an independent artist, it's really hard to get your music out there because everything you do, you have to do out of your own pocket, basically. So you never have the push of a big record company or, the networks, I suppose, that those companies have. So you've really got to work hard at promoting it. And the last 12 months have been all about really getting out to the public and playing and performing and doing festivals and getting people to hear it and calling on those that support your music in the past. And people have been terrific in their support. And I think that's the challenge though for all independent artists is, there's so much, you go to these festivals around the place, John, and you hear so much great music and you think, gee, why hasn't that been heard by the general public? And, it's everyone's got the same story. It's just really hard to get your music out to the masses. So you just got to keep chipping away and keep positive and hopefully, it gets heard.
Sure. If you could place one particular theme on this record, would there be one?
I think it's sort of a culmination of years of, I suppose, finding a sound. And my sound has changed over the years, which I think, like a lot of musicians, it's good to evolve and change and try different things. But the one thing is that I think a lot of the common sounds throughout the album have been, through years of playing. So I would say that's the one common theme is that, all the sounds I've loved of various musicians growing up and listening to, I've been able to really bring together on this album.
I believe, though, it was a pretty quick process from the beginning of recording to the end packaged product, though. Yeah,
look, it was. It was back in January the year before. There were a lot of songs that hadn't even been written, and I just decided that I had a pretty limited time frame, so I decided to literally go into the studio and had this mad idea of trying to record sort of 10 songs and get them done in 2 weeks, and I ended up going to the studio and ending up with 15 or 14 tracks on the album. So it came together really well, and it was one of those things where, musicians were around or available to record, and everything just fell into place. So that was a great part of the whole process, which doesn't always happen when you're recording. You'll always find someone who's away or on tour or unavailable, and got to work around them. But I was lucky. I met a fantastic studio engineer lives not far from where I live, and he was able to really quickly record the album and edit it, and that was great. So we were able to get sounds down really quickly.
And that was at Toyland Studios, but I
Yeah.
know there was some additional recording done in the Netherlands too, I noticed.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of travelling around, and quite a few years ago met a great guy over in Denmark called Bob Phillips, and Bob is a drummer. He's played very experienced drummer, and he actually played drums for me in a festival I performed at in Denmark. And he said, if ever there's you want any recording done, I'm set up in my own studio, and just give me a shout. So I had one track that I really wanted Bob to play on because he had this fantastic feel. It's called Day She Rode the Mule, and so I emailed him. I said, "Oh, Bob, are you interested?" And straight back, and he said, "No problem." And within, I think it was 24 hours, he had recorded the drums and sent them back to me. So it's amazing how small the world is these days.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a wonderful lineup of supporting players, and it must give and instill you with great confidence when going in to record, knowing you've got such wonderful talent around you.
Look, it does, and I'm really lucky in that regard to have such fantastic musicians. And anyone who's done any recording over the years would know with the recording process that it can be hours and hours of takes and retakes and going back over the tracks and getting the right sounds. And with these people that perform, they're all such fantastic musicians in their own right that they were able to literally go in and do one or two takes and it was done. And that's very rare in the recording process to have people of that quality. So I am really lucky to have such fabulous musos who are able to just get the job done and be very professional about the way they go about it. And so it's at one stage of the recording, I turned to guitarist Lee Morgan, who's a great supporter and singer-songwriter himself. And I just said, oh, look, the sounds on the album are just, they're perfect. They're every player that was putting sounds on. It's one of the great feelings when you're recording is to have these great players putting beautiful notes all over your music. It's a really great feeling. So I'm truly lucky.
One of the great players on the album was the legendary Ed Bates, adding some pedal steel as only he can. How did you find Ed to work with?
Ed's brilliant, and once again, I've been in awe of Ed for a long time. He lived around the corner from the studio, so I was able to virtually walk around. Came in one night and was laid 5 tracks down. He had actually the rough mixes, but he laid 5 tracks down, I reckon, in about 2 hours. And and that's the quality of musician that Ed is. And he's a terrific fellow as well. He's such a humble musician as well. He just, he makes your songs, he brings your songs to life. So it was a great thrill.
You've got your band, the Band of Brothers. Can you tell us about the background of the guys in the band?
So years ago, I've had various lineups, played in a band called the Plowboys, which was more Celtic rock, and sort of over time that evolved. Different players came and went, and then I sort of, I suppose, had a yearning to have a more sort of country root sound, I suppose. And so a great friend of mine, Lee Morgan, who comes from the southwest of Victoria in Warrnambool, where I grew up, he played on my first solo album, and I caught back up with Lee recently, and so it was great to have him back on the album and travelling around with me. He's a great user. James Rust on bass has played with me for many, many years, probably about 20 years now, and fabulous musician, and just a great guy as well, great supporter of the music. And then Declan O'Neill and John Emery, once again. Declan's a young drummer, upcoming drummer. He's actually the son of the guy we used to play with a lot, Anthony O'Neill.
Oh, yeah.
And so Declan's been playing with us for a long time. And John Emery, I'd grown up with John as well in Warrnambool. He's a Warrnambool fellow, but a beautiful percussionist and drummer. So very, very lucky to have those guys who I get to travel around with and play my music. And, when they are your own songs and you've taken the time and effort to have such care, and I suppose their respect for the songs. It's great for me. I feel very lucky, very fortunate.
One of the standout songs on the album is, well, for me, Brand New Start, the story of Jimmy and Rita.
Yeah.
Seems to have quite a story behind it, and with footy season just begun, the kind of time there to talk about that one. Can you tell us about the story behind that?
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a family story. My father, back in the late 1930s, was invited down from Warrnambool in the country to train with Richmond Footy Club, which was a big deal in those days. And he came down and spent a couple of weeks in Melbourne, which he actually hated. But his story that he used to tell us was how around the time of Jack Dyer and Skinny Titus, who are legends of the Richmond Footy Club, how he came down to train, and it was late one night at training, and he got king hit from behind by one of the Richmond players, who looked down at him and actually said, don't come down here, country boy, and try and take away my position in the forward line. So Dad always used to tell us about, the fact was that there wasn't a lot of money around in those days, and for a lot of the men that played football, that was the income that they made that kept their family alive. So he would often tell us, that he fully understood why this guy did it. So I suppose I'd wanted to put that into a song for a long time, and it was the catalyst for this story, and it was loosely based in, someone said to me, you should write a song about how young kids, even in today, these kids come down to the city to play footy and they find it very different to what they've grown up with, and quite often a lot of them end up going back home, back to where they grew up when the footy falls through or finished uni or whatever it is, and they go back to lives that have changed forever. So it was sort of a little bit of a story of two fictitious characters that grow apart, Jimmy and Rita, and but kind of based on that notion of it can be tough and lonely in the big smoke, when you come from the bush. So that was the basis of the story.
There's a lovely dedication to your mum in the liner notes on the record, and she was obviously very important in your growing to love music as a kid.
Yeah, look, she was the, I suppose, big supporter of music. Dad was the sporting one that had us out kicking the footy and what have you, and playing cricket, and Mum was always the one that getting us doing piano practice or singing or whatever. And look, I actually wrote the song "Road to Your Heart" for my dad, who passed away about 5 years ago, and I was fortunate enough that the album was done last year, that she got to hear the song and loved it, and then she passed away about 6 weeks later. So she's been a major influence on all of our music growing up, and it's been, it's lovely to continue that tradition, because she was very proud of the fact that we were able to, continue that tradition on. Yeah.
Did you write all the songs with this project in mind, or have some of them been sitting with you for a while?
Some have been around for a long time, actually. There's one song on the album that was one of the first songs I'd written, called Angela. And I had recorded it such a long time ago, I don't even know where the original recording is. I don't have a copy of the CD. And when we'd go out and play, and whenever we would play the song, it was still very popular, and people would say, oh, what CD can I get that on? So I thought with this new sound and this new lineup and paying homage to the past, that I should try and do a new version and a new sound, and so that's what I did. So it's been sitting around for a long time. And then there are bits and pieces of songs that have sort of been unfinished or, have had a bit of a history but have never made it onto an album, so I've decided to collate all those and put them onto this album. So it's nice to have everything in the one place.
Yeah.
On this album.
In general, did the songs change much during the recording project, from the way you originally conceived them?
Yeah, they do. And look, I have to say, in a really good way, when you write a song, writing songs is quite a funny process, because you do it sort of in isolation on your own, whether it's on the guitar or the piano. So it's very stripped back. And then when you see people starting to add layers, it certainly makes a big difference to how the song feels. And I was really wrapped when people like Ed Bates would come along and start adding their layers, it just created a whole new dimension. So yeah, they do change, and I have to say for the better. You know, the way they come out, and I suppose the sounds that people put on it are a big influence. So it makes a big difference.
There's 3 covers on the record, including a terrific arrangement of Neil Young's Comes the Time. What do you look for in a song to make it one that you'd like to cover? Does it have to fit in with the rest of the project that you're working on?
Yeah, that particular song, it's funny because I've always loved that song growing up as a kid, you know, older brothers bringing home albums, and it's one of those songs that I just has stuck with me for a long time. And it really came about because I was lucky enough to go over to Nashville a couple of times, and one of the trips I went over to Nashville, I bought myself a little mandolin, and I came home that night after buying the mandolin back to my hotel room, and I ended up I ended up learning, the first song I learned on the mandolin was Comes a Time. I just started strumming, and then I started singing along, and that was the song that came out, and so it's always been one of those songs that's been with me for a long time. It was really lovely to finally record it properly and do it my way rather than doing the stock standard straight cover, but to give it your own inflection. So yeah, it was great.
For sure. And what's the status of the Plowboys these days, Damien? Is that still a going concern?
Look, the boys they're all doing different things at the moment, and it's you know, everyone, we catch up. We caught up last June, which was lovely. Did a bit of a reunion gig and played together. But most of the boys are spread off around the country. A couple are interstate now, and Pete Dennehy's off. He's always busy off playing around the trap. So we try and catch up and in various guises we get together. But we might put something together down the track of get together and do another festival and have a bit of fun together, because they're always terrific to catch up with those guys.
Right. And with this particular album, has there been any overseas interest at all?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to get some nice feedback from America and also from Ireland, which has been great. And a few people have certainly given me some nice, honest feedback and some praise for the songs, which is always great. And we just love to see someone really like one of the songs, John, and record it themselves. That'd be even better. Even better. So you know, your songs travel a long way when you record them, and it's like kids. You let them go out into the world, and you never know where they'll end up.
True. And just before I let you go, what's in the books for the rest of 2015?
I've got a little recording project I'm going to be doing. It's quite a different approach. I'm going to do it much more acoustic and just working with different musicians. It's a project I've been meaning to do for a long time, and I've taken the time now to actually set aside and do it. It's an album full of Ned Kelly songs, which I've always had a great interest in doing, and I've written quite a few. So I'm going to spend the next sort of 6 months working on that, and once again working with various people. So that's the main focus. I've actually asked, got someone who looks after my bookings and what have you, and decided to basically take the time now to just write and to record and get creative during these winter months, and then it cranks up again with the travelling around and festivals and gigs sort of later in the year. So it'll be a lovely time now to really focus on the creative process again. And the next project, it's always you never no such thing as standing still in music. You're either going forward or going backwards. So look, that's the next step, which is exciting.
That's fantastic. So that's a combination of your own songs and some traditional songs with a Kelly theme.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it'll be should be a fun project to work on.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. Damian, thanks so much for your time. Great to catch up with you. Congratulations on what is, definitely your strongest work to date. It's a fantastic piece of work.
Thanks, John, and thank you for your support. It's always community radio is the great supporters of original Australian music, and we certainly appreciate all the musicians I talk to. So thanks very much.
No problem at all. And we look forward to the next instalment.
Good on you, John. Thank you, Ned.
Thanks, Damian. Bye-bye, mate.
Bye.
done.